side that side of it.
We're like,
And that link was non-existent, so.
We'll call this meeting to order. Whereas there's a quorum of council present, the time is 6:30 p.m. Be it resolved that this regular meeting be open for business and that the minutes of the regular meeting of July 9th, 2025 and the special meeting of July 21st, 2025 be approved. Could I have a mover for that? Councilors Hobbs and Phillips. All in favor? Carried. We begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are on land that has been inhabited by Anishinaabe nations. We would like to acknowledge that the land in which we gather is the traditional territory of the Sagamok Anishinaabe, and we would like to give thanks for sharing this land. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests and nature thereof? None being heard. We have additions to the agenda. Be it resolved that the following be added to the regular agenda. C4, payment approval, work equipment for the flail mower, and G3, bylaw 2025-46 to appoint a fire training officer. Do you have a number for that? Councilor Chica, second. Councilor Hobbs, all in favor? Carried. All right, we have delegation. Mr. David Vigor from Potential Renewables to show us what their plans are for a solar energy project. Welcome, gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Councilors. My name is David Vigor, Director of Development and Origination at Potentia Renewables. Thank you for having us this evening as a delegation. I'm going to give a short presentation to give an introduction on who Potentia is, as well as our proposed solar energy project here in the townships of Sables-Spanish rivers. And also provide some details as to what we're seeking from the township at this early stage of development for that project, specifically the municipal support confirmation from Ontario's Independent Electricity System Operator, or the IESO. Certainly available as well to answer any questions as time permits. I should note my colleague Patrick Russell is here. Patrick is the project manager at Potentia and the project manager for this project in the township. And Patrick's also available to answer any questions. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, who is Potentia? So we are Canadian-owned developer, owner, and operator of renewable energy and energy storage assets. We're headquartered in Toronto and have over 1.5 gigawatts of assets operating across Canada and the United States. We're owned by the Power Sustainable Energy Infrastructure Fund, which is in turn owned by the Power Corporation of Canada, which is based in Montreal and trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange. Here's just a look at our portfolio across North America. That map shows up a little bit small, but focusing in on Ontario, we do have a substantial portfolio of operating solar projects, over 800 facilities across the province. Most of those are rooftop solar projects, but ground mount and utility scale as well. So like the rooftop portfolio, we have a significant number on schools. So we have partnerships with various school boards, as well as commercial buildings such as your Canadian Tire or Home Depot, for example. We're also developing the largest energy storage project in Canada. It's called our Skyview Energy Storage Project, which is about an hour south of Ottawa in the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal. That's a 390 megawatt facility. And that project was successful in winning a contract in Ontario's last call for new power last year, which was referred to as the long-term one RFP. So this slide just kind of gives you a sense of our track record. This is shows the cumulative impact of a recent build-out that Potentia completed between 2019 and 2023, which is five wind projects in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I think it with the numbers just gives you a sense of the potential scale of economic development. In terms of job creation, local property taxes, payments to landowners and to municipalities, as well as ownership distributions to local Indigenous communities, and of course, emissions reductions. But at the root of it all, we are a fairly small company. I mean, despite the gigawatts operating across the United States and Canada, we're only 95 people. And we're passionate, experienced, and engaged team that is very focused on safely and sustainably building and operating renewable energy projects for generations to come. And with that, like in all the project communities that we're in, a core focus on our values, so excellence, passion, integrity, and agility. So what kind of community benefits can the township expect for a utility scale project such as the one we're proposing here? I think I would just start off emphasizing that Potentia is a long-term operator of our assets. So for us, cultivating local relationships early is really important and critical for our work. I mean, right now we're in month 5 of a 5-year development timeframe. And currently we're, for solar panels, like from the vendors that we work with, the life expectancy is getting longer and longer, so up to 35 years. So that's a long time. So it's really, really important for us to have good relationships with the communities that we work in. But specifically for Massey, I mean, certainly solar is a non-emitting new source of power, which provides new electrical capacity to the grid and helps reduce emissions. From a job perspective, it's our engineering and construction team's policy to hold the local job fair prior to construction. There will be opportunities for local employment, whether that's related to land surveying, road construction, local material supply, such as aggregate or concrete. And for a project of the size we're proposing here, up to 150 or so jobs within the construction period, which is about a year and a half. In addition to that, from a property tax perspective, solar generation in Ontario is taxed industrial. So you can expect a sustainable source of new tax revenue while requiring generally fairly minimal municipal servicing. And last but not least, it's Potentia's policy for all the projects that we have across North America to have a community benefit fund with the local municipality. Which is basically a fund that provides funds annually over the course of operations. And so for us, for this project, if we're awarded a contract from the province, our plan would be to contribute $75,000 a year over the course of the power purchase agreement with the IESO, so over 20 years, so about, I guess, $1.5 to $2 million over the course of the 20-year contract. So it just gives you, I guess, a sense of our impacts in the current communities that we work within. I think for the Community Benefit Fund, the fund has potential to have significant impact cumulatively over the course of a project life. Some of the examples that the funds can be used for our Golden South project in Saskatchewan, the Anaspoya Curling Club's ice maintenance scraper replacement. It was about $6,500. We did a playground for the Hilton Elementary School that was about $21,000. Generally, quite quite broad and just focused on what the needs are individually of each of the communities where our projects are. We also provide donations throughout the life cycle. And for example, for our new Skyview project, we donate annually to the Fall Fair and sponsor that. And for our Bala Hydro Dam near Muskoka, we sponsor the Cranberry Festival every year. But I think like financial contributions aside, because we're the asset operator, or it's just, I think our team presence, so our operations team is very active at events, and we have sort of a focus on knowledge and education transfer to community members. And so we typically, like for a project this size, we'll have a few full-time staff at the site, and we'll be present in the community. So why are we here?
Yeah. How did you find us?
Yeah. How did we come to this beautiful place on a sunny summer evening where I'd rather be out on the lake? So we're here because the province of Ontario is forecasting a significant increase in electricity demand from now until 2050. They're forecasting 75% increase by 2050. So this chart here is from their annual planning outlook that they released in spring. So it's quite significant. I think that the messaging from the Ministry of Energy is that they need all sources of energy, all of the above type approach to meet an increase in demand, which is driven by a number of items, mainly the electrification of our economy, but also growth, industrial growth in mining, data centers. So it's quite significant. This has led to this has been the impetus for what they're calling the long-term 2 energy procurement, which just launched at the end of June of this year. And provides an opportunity for contracting of new build renewable energy facilities. So the long-term 2 procurement, the aim is to secure 14 terawatt hours. That's about 7,500 megawatts and 1,600 megawatts of capacity over the next 4 years. And the province will have application windows starting October of this year, every single year for the next 4 years. Accepting applications for new renewable energy projects. They need to be over, there's a few key components, they need to be over 1 megawatt, so that's typically your utility scale project, transmission connected versus distribution connected, so a little bit bigger scale. They give out 20-year contracts. There's a focus to get online by 2030. That's where they're seeing the supply gap on the power grid. Another piece to this, and I'll get to the details about this later, is that any power company that needs to submit an application requires support from the local municipality. They're also prioritizing projects in Northern Ontario, I think for economic development reasons, but also just locational preference for new power as well. From a land use perspective, there's a push to avoid siting on prime agricultural lands, and as well incentives for equity participation from First Nations and Indigenous communities. So this is a look at our site here that we are planning, which is an up to 120 megawatt ground mounted solar energy facility off of Birch Lake Road, in what I believe is the former township of May. What's drawn us to this location, like why we're siting here, is kind of 2 fundamental items. One of them is resource driven, so solar irradiance. In Northern Ontario, the Sudbury Basin or water is the best solar resource. There's an area kind of west of Thunder Bay that's pretty good as well. But the solar resource is quite strong here. And then the second fundamental reason is the ability to connect new generation to existing transmission lines that have capacity to handle new generation, which is not the case in a good portion of the province. We do have a lot of grid constraints. And so those two pieces led us here, in addition to the fact that this is considered Northern Ontario, and the other piece from a land use compatibility perspective, we've cited on lands that are ruled zone per your township's official plan, or zone rule, I should say. So that's what's led us here, and here. So just looking at the schedule, as I mentioned, we are month 5 of a 5-year development timeframe. So quite early. The focus right now is to prepare this project for submission to the province in the fall. We will know if we get a contract by April of 2026, at which point we would pursue all the permitting that would be required. The primary permit is what's called a renewable energy approval from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. That has quite robust public engagement requirements, minimum 2 public open houses, website, newsletter, and typically we go above the statutory requirements. But also we will be delegated duty to consult, so we'll have to work through Indigenous consultation with all the treaty rights holders here. And then we'll have to work with the township through site plan. So we'll be subject to site plan control. I believe that solar is a permitted use, but we're not on stat, so that's good. And then other permits and approvals at the township level. So there's quite a lot of work and runway, a couple of years, if we're successful in getting a contract to work through the design, procure the material, get the material contracts in place with the vendors, all to work towards a 2028, 2029 construction start, so that we can be online no later than 2030, which is really what the province is looking for from a power perspective in terms of their supply gap, as I mentioned earlier. So that's the schedule. Okay, so just coming back to my opening, what are we seeking from council today? I think at this point, it's really just a nod to move to the next step in the process, which is to apply for a long-term power purchase agreement with the province. The ISO has this form, municipal support confirmation. The form is mandatory for any power company to participate in the competitive RFP. It's effectively a support in principle. It's not a permit or an approval. It just allows us to participate in the procurement, but we're of course going to come back to work through site plan, to work through other permitting at a later stage. And so this is really the beginning to sort of say, yeah, I think this looks okay, or yeah, I'm not sure this looks okay, or ensuring we get that touch point really early. These are very competitive RFPs. I mean, Potentia's had a lot of success, but it's probably 30 to 40% probability, if I'm being realistic, in terms of the chances of getting a contract. So it's at that point, that's when you have a real project. At this point, we're sort of pulling together the pieces to try and get there, and getting feedback along the way. So that's all I had as far as a presentation, and thank you for your time this evening, and we're happy to answer questions.
I have one question for you. Did I hear you right saying that the life of the panels would be 35 years?
Yeah, that's what our vendors are currently providing warranties for.
So they've come a long way, I guess.
Yeah, the degradation's gotten a lot better. It's a lot slower. And it's interesting getting some pricing for what would be a 2028 time period. The panels that they can give us prices for now aren't even going to be available in 2028, like just in terms of the number of watts per panel. So it continues to advance. I do think the Ontario's contract for power at 20 years hasn't been adjusted. It's always been like that for over the last 15 years, at least since I've been in the industry. Hasn't been adjusted to the lifespan of solar. In BC, they just issued a call for power and their contracts are 30 years, which is a little closer. So what will happen is an initial contract and then the project will be recontracted because all of the equipment still is, has value and is able to produce power.
So tell me about the recyclability of solar panels.
It's pretty good. Pat, I don't know if you want to take that one or.
Yeah, sure. So,
Okay.
panels are by far and large about 95% recyclable.
That's good.
Which is typically better than even steel, which is very high recyclable. Most of the panels, glass, aluminum is 100%. That's a big part of it. There are some components that aren't, but in terms of the actual component of the panel, it's a very small fraction of the panel that's not recyclable, and that's in today's standards. So, kind of the trajectory of the industry for recycling panels is that right now there's not a whole lot of utility scale projects that have come to the end of life and have needed to get recycled and put through that kind of phase. Over the next 10 years, that's going to start to come true, and even already with basic technology we have right now, 95% of those panels can be recycled and diverted to recycled facilities. And so within 30 years, at the end of life of what we expect this project to be, it'll be a completely different story. But we can expect that it would be at least equivalent or better in terms of recyclability.
Okay, that's good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions for David and his colleague?
Yeah, I have some.
Councilor
So you have land use agreements with the property owners?
We do, yes.
Once your project starts, do you carry all insurances for that project?
We do, yes.
Is there any hazards associated with those projects?
What do you mean in terms of hazards? Just sort of like risks to
Fire hazards?
neighbors? Not fire hazards in the same way that you're seeing with batteries, for instance. I think a fire hazard is typically same as any other electrical type of equipment you would have in your house or appliances. But I think it's kind of two things would be. One is, I don't know if you can consider this a hazard, but the noise emissions from the inverters in the transformer substation. Something that we're mindful of in terms of the siting. So ensuring that those units are set back far enough from the residents such that they're at the compliant with daytime and nighttime limits in this environment, which is like 40 decibels, so it's quite low. That would be that's one sort of hazard or sort of risk if you're considering kind of the general environment that we mitigate. If you want to add other kind of hazards.
In terms of hazards, even the fire risk is kind of controlled because the whole system, there's a bunch of sensors in the system. So if anything, if a fire occurs or something like in a connector, you're going to get a loss or a drop in power. And as soon as that's triggered, one, the control system alerts, the central data room, which is being remotely monitored. And then it's either reset or if it happens again, it's completely shut down, de-energized. So the fire risk is significantly contained in the sense that basically the power being run through is shut. And so, the systems are around it as well. If there's any kind of surge or anything like that, there's a bunch of electrical protections in place. Again, also to protect the equipment there in case there's a nearby lightning strike or something like that. So really, generally, it's always pretty safe.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is that, we'll have a like proper emergency response plan, through that site plan process so that we can do the hazard assessment, identify any mitigation that is needed. We have over 800 facilities. We have never had a fire incident before with Potentia. But that doesn't mean that you don't plan for the worst case scenario. So that's certainly what we do.
And it's a power installation, so I would assume it's gonna be secured, you know?
Yeah, it's completely fenced off. There's security for some.
Okay.
Site. It's not like nobody from the public just.
No, you can't have people wandering around.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've had issues in kind of rural locations with break-ins, actually even on rooftops as well, just because of the value of copper, right?
Yeah.
So it's the facility's fence, but it is monitored 24/7. So we have our ops team will get an alert if there's a break-in, and we can dispatch someone overnight. But otherwise, like for a facility like this, we would have at least 2 full-time people there every single day.
So
it's
you
more
will
than
have
nighttime.
local people that can respond to situations.
Yeah, like we'll have our own Potentia team, and then we'll also have technicians, like electrical technicians that would support routine maintenance, and those are usually contracted third parties. But we'll, like for a facility this size, we'll have someone from our team.
Okay. Go ahead, Kat.
The 25-year contract, does that include the construction phase?
The 20-year contract from the ISO does not include the construction phase. So that's for operations.
This is just generating.
Just generating, that's correct.
Okay, so when it's done, when your 20 years is done,
Mhm.
do you bring the property back to the way it was and all structures are removed?
Ideally, we're recontracting all the way up to 35 years because that's the lifespan. But yeah, we're required to decommission the project. There's a few different contractual avenues for that. One is the actual leases with the landowners, which have contractual requirements to restore the lands to existing conditions and also provide security by way of a bond. The second is with our renewable energy approval with the Ministry of Environment, we're required to prepare a decommissioning plan. It sort of lays all that out in detail that the ministry approves. And then a condition of that approval is for us to follow the decommissioning plan. And then the third is we project finance this with banks, with lenders. So we'll have a creditor agreement with the banks that will obligate us to decommission and remove the equipment. So there's a lot of layers on the decommissioning side and protections there for the landowners, for the community. There's really no way that we're going to be able to walk away with panels in the field.
When we decommission, it's stipulated in the contract that it's to as good a state as when we took possession or took ownership of the site or of the site or better. So it's never like you can't decommission it out of the state worse than it was when we started working.
Okay. Just one more question. Let's say X, you got your solar farm on his property and he puts his property up for sale. Can he sell it to anybody he wants, or is it, you guys don't get first crack because you've got?
No, I mean, we're leasing right now. So, the lease runs with the land. So if they sell or transfer the property to someone else, then our lease runs with the sale.
They've got a revenue generating.
Well, yeah, you can kind of think of it like an annuity, right? Like an investment.
Okay, I just want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
Any other questions? Sure.
No, I think he covered all.
Okay, so when I seen this on the agenda, thanks for coming out to present tonight. started digging in, doing some research, and I'm starting to feel that this green technology isn't so green. And I can give you all the sources where I got the information from. So if you first start with the mining, so solar panels require silicon, silver, copper, aluminum, and rare metals like cadmium. So mining for these materials destroys habitats, pollutes waterways, emits large amounts of carbon. The manufacturing of panels is energy intensive, often powered by fossil fuels, and produces toxic chemical waste and potent greenhouse gases. This creates a significant upfront carbon debt that can take years to offset. This results in carbon debt that can take 1 to 4 years to offset, longer in low sunlight regions like Northern Ontario. Producing solar grade silicon requires heating quartz to 1800 degrees Celsius, an energy demanding process. Many manufacturing hubs, particularly in China, which produces 80% of the solar panels, use coal powered electricity. Manufacturing releases toxic waste and potent greenhouse gases like nitrogen trifluoride, which with a warming potential 17,000 times greater than carbon dioxide. So that's just the mining portion. So talking about recycling, I was quite surprised when you said 90% is recycling, because the information I gathered, and I can cite the sources, there's no realistic plan for what happens when these panels reach their end of 25, 30 lifespan. By 2050, global solar waste is projected to reach as much as 80 million metric tons. Most panels today end up in landfills with only about 10% recycled. Mainly because recycling is more expensive than disposal, facilities are limited, and materials recovered are not highly valuable, for example, the aluminum. Plans for recycling and site restoration are vague, relying on future technology and policies that currently do not exist. This means the waste problem and the cost could possibly fall on the community. Third, the social and ethical issues. So some of the raw materials for these panels come from supply chains linked to unsafe working conditions and even forced labor. The electricity generated here will likely flow to urban centers or corporate buyers, while we bear the land use and environmental impacts. This project also risks displacing farmland and infringing on indigenous and rural lands. Water consumption is a concern. Large solar farms require significant water for cleaning in certain climates, and the manufacturing process consumes huge amounts of ultra pure water. This adds to the environmental footprint. And finally, the local benefit is minimal. Most jobs will be short-term construction roles. Long-term employment will be scarce. And it's just concerned that the municipality oversight will be extremely limited. So I'm quite concerned from what I've researched.
This is
If you want, I could address some of those points.
Sure.
So in terms of things like, yes, the panels are, or I guess the industry, throughout the industry, most of the industry, solar panels are, about 80% are constructed in China. China doesn't have the greatest record on, labor and things like that, or environmental footprint. But in terms of labor and forced labor and things like that, Canada does have a number of trade restrictions with China, so a lot of things we can't import, or at least have pretty fairly high tariffs on them as well. And some are outright banned, so a lot of things we can't import from certain regions of China because they have such a poor human rights record. In terms of panels, like silicon-based panels, a lot of this silicon, though manufactured in China, sometimes goes through, or they don't really have like not the bill of sale, but the traceability of the components. And generally, we avoid those. We work with companies that can trace all origination of their bill of materials. So we know that there's, it's not a panel that comes from a sweatshop or through forced labor or through prison labor, things like that. So that's one aspect that we can either purchase from suppliers who have kind of already worked through those kinks and to try and actually quite successfully demonstrate that their products are ethically sourced. And then we generally import from those sellers and suppliers. In terms of things like the environmental impact on panels, pretty much everything we do has an environmental impact, right? So whether it's building a road or building a site like this, or even products that we use our computers, for example. Typically, a panel pays for itself or offsets the carbon it produces in its production within, on average, about a 3-year lifespan, which, as far as industry goes, for kind of any kind of industry out there, that's extremely short. Most products never kind of offset the production, like ever. And so having a 3-year lifespan on offsetting kind of the energy that went into making that product is tremendous, considering that the lifespan of the product is 30 odd years of operation. That means you're getting a 10-fold return on your offset, on the energy produced by it that you're then offsetting through the lifespan of the project. And in terms of, I guess, the other environmental impacts, such as water and things like that, it is a clean technology, so it's much less than other types of technology. So I mean, there's that consideration as well. But basically, I think it's every product that we make or that we develop is going to have an environmental impact one way or another. It so happens that with solar, it's actually quite small in comparison to other similar products, especially in the energy production industries.
Anything else, Mike?
Nope.
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry, just one question. How is vegetation control there? So if you have vegetation growing in the
Yeah, I think, does our ops team, I'm not sure what kind of, if they use any sort of chemicals or if it's mainly mechanical.
I think it's mostly mechanical.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on the site. I don't know of any sites offhand that are heavy into like chemical weeding and spraying or anything like that. We can mostly just like cut the lawn and things like that, and use kind of when they plant the site to begin with, because they level it out and put the piles in, put the panels up. They usually seed it, and so they can use native adaptive plants in that case, and things that don't typically grow very high require minimal maintenance. That's the preferred option. There are also some solar farms that have grazing, so they bring animals in to graze. Usually not something as large as like cows or cattle, but like sheep or ducks or things like that usually keeps the weeds down. So it depends on the site and depends on the climate and what's there, but there should be minimal, on any kind of given project, there should be minimal weeding.
So
In terms of the chemical weed control.
So you're saying that none of your operations use any form of chemicals to maintain vegetation? You're looking at a 400 to 500 acre site to manually cut that grass.
Usually that's what they try to do. I'd have to check with our ops team, but I think it's very minimal. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I feel more comfortable once we had some concrete answers to some of these questions. I could forward you this if you want to, if you leave me an email and just look over the report. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, Harold or Thomas?
That Birch Lake area, that's one of the largest freshwater aquifers or artesian water in our municipality.
You mean like Birch Lake, the actual lake there?
Underground.
An underground aquifer?
Yeah.
One of the largest. That's why when it was brought up about the chemical and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're, as far as like the water flow, stormwater, we're not, in terms of the site specific, we're just not there yet in terms of studying that. But that's certainly something that we'll want to look at as far as our stormwater design. Yeah, I haven't looked at those kind of water flows of the site. It's good information.
Anyone else? Thanks, gentlemen. Okay.
It's long.
So where is the proponent is proposing to construct and operate a long-term energy project located on municipal project lands as defined and with the characteristics outlined in the table below under the long-term 2 energy supply window 1 request for proposals, LT2 E1 RFP issued by the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, IESO, and whereas capitalized terms not defined herein have the meanings ascribed to them in the LT2 E1 RFP. And whereas the proponent has no later than 60 days prior to the proposal submission deadline delivered a pre-engagement confirmation notice to applicable local body administrator in respect of the municipal project lands that includes the detail outlined in the table below, except for the unique project ID, that should only be required as part of the pre-engagement confirmation notice if available. Name of the long-term energy project, Massey Solar. Legal name of the proponent, Massey Solar Incorporated. Technology type of long-term energy project, solar. Maximum potential contract capacity of the long-term energy project in megawatts, 200. Property identification number of municipal project lands. I won't go through all those numbers. And whereas pursuant to the LT2 E1 RFP, if the long-term energy project is proposed to be located in whole or in part on municipal project lands, the proposal must include municipal support confirmation, which may be in the form of a municipal resolution in support of proposal submissions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Sables-Spanish Rivers supports the submission of a proposal for the long-term energy project located on the municipal project lands, and that this resolution's sole purpose is to satisfy the mandatory requirements of section 4.2C3 of the LT2 E1 RFP and may not be used for the purpose of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal of long-term energy project or for any other purpose. And that the proponent has undertaken or has committed to undertake Indigenous and community engagement activities in respect of the long-term energy project to the satisfaction of the municipality. And finally, that the municipal project lands does not include lands designated as prime agricultural areas in the Township of Sables-Spanish Rivers official plan. Could I have a mover for that motion? Councillor Burns, second. Councillor Hobbs. Discussion or questions?
I'd like to see if we can defer until we get some concrete answers from the information I provided. Like we're talking about like glyphosate spraying, we're talking about, I know you were saying that, you know, in 1 to 3 years, you can, or possibly 3 years, and offset the initial carbon footprint of the manufacturer. But when they go to landfill sites, like, you know, 80 million tons, metric tons expected in 2050, then there's continued carbon footprint of that. The impacts of that. Like, I'd like some firm answers on the information I presented before we move ahead.
Sorry, through your chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
So I think I'd mentioned just a question on decommissioning. So we are required under regulation to have a decommissioning plan shared and draft with the township for comments as part of our renewable energy approval with the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. We're not at the stage where we're pursuing those approvals yet. We wouldn't initiate that application process until we have a contract. That's just how the development process is set up. We certainly want to provide all of those details and make sure that the township is comfortable with where the materials are going to go and the end of life. So I don't want you to think that we're just coming here with basic information and not going to provide the details. We are. It's just that it's a process, and we're, you know, at month 5 of sort of 5 years, and And, now that I'd like to see the reports and I'd like to get the questions. And then we can start to incorporate that as early as we can to working through a commissioning plan that works for everybody.
So what we're looking at here is basically giving you permission for a proposal only right now,
Correct.
which at any time could come up with the areas of concern.
So it's proposal to have a long-term power purchase agreement. There's no guarantees, right? It's highly competitive. But we need to work through all of our environmental studies in 2 to 3 years after we get a contract. Site plan, there's a lot of work and information to exchange and move through. But we're not in the position to really do that unless we have what we would call a capitalized project, which is you have a contract and the ability to have our shareholders say, well, we can do all the field studies, we can do all the work, we can move forward with this project.
So at this point in time, it just gives you the ability to write an RFP
Just gives us the ability to apply. Yeah.
and in no way ties the township into agreeing to anything at
Correct.
this point in time.
Correct. There's been a lot of changes over the last 5 years as far as the regulation of renewable energy projects. One of them is it used to be all streamlined at the provincial level, and municipalities didn't have much control or say. That's been changed, and so site plan control is now under jurisdiction townships and municipalities. And that wasn't the case prior. And so that needs to go through that approval process and any other permits, emergency response plans, other work that we would do with you. But we can't get there unless we apply. So I think that's what I was kind of getting at, is it's kind of a sort of nod to move to the next step in the process.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just assuming that since you're near the Hydro One transmission lines, would you be selling your energy to Hydro One?
So we're selling it to the ISO. So there's a buyer of the power. We have we would have an interconnection agreement with Hydro One. So they would technically own the breaker that connects to the existing line. And then there's what's the customer side, but we're considered basically a customer of Hydro One. But the power gets sold to the province.
Okay. Would you be compensating money to Hydro One for using the transmission line?
I'm not sure exactly. No, we wouldn't be. We would be. I mean, we have to pay for the cost that they need to build to make the connection. But in terms of the actual flow of electricity through the lines, not.
I think that comes down, the ISO purchased the power bill, and then how much is redistributed throughout the province through the network, Hydro One network, or whichever local distribution company, whichever kind of municipality. The LDC set a rate, it's almost like a surcharge for the use of the delivery of the power. So if you look at your power bill, you'll be at the delivery charge, that's set by the local distribution company. And it's based off, in a nutshell, it's based off the cost that it requires them to upkeep those lines.
So that means
Yeah,
that possibly sounds like it could mean an increase in consumer rates per kilowatt hours.
it should mean a decrease in consumer rates per kilowatt hours because solar is coming in way lower than all the other power that's being. Generally, it goes solar and actually wind's slightly lower than solar right now. Wind's the cheapest energy you can produce, then solar, and then it goes basically, for that, there's gas and nuclear, which are very common.
Hydros in between.
Yeah, hydro, new hydro is very expensive, but the legacy hydro is very cheap, so it's. And, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, you know that.
And, I got some cards if anybody wants.
Sure.
So you guys are here.
Okay, if there's no other questions,
What would be, yeah,
okay, go ahead.
what would the estimated completion cost of what we're looking at a project like this be?
About $150 million in terms of, capital expenditure. So that would be all the construction, development, materials.
Okay, so we're not $150 million.
Yeah. And so when it comes to like
Okay,
end of life decommissioning, there's a huge benefit to taking all those panels, recycling them, or there's a huge benefit in
Salvaging.
salvaging them.
Yes.
So salvage steel, wires, copper, panels, the whole.
What is the local employment that you foresee for this project,
Yeah, so primarily during construction. So
during the
about
construction?
150 jobs.
Or-
150
Well,
for year and a half, year and a half. Operations, not many, and we'll have 2 permanent people on site for the size of a project. But that goes both ways. Like, it is a fairly static facility, which there's benefits to that. Not long term.
when it comes to decommissioning, will there be local employment involved in that, or?
I would expect so. Yeah, because you're basically reworking the installation. So I would expect that there would be.
And how long does that take to normally decommission a project?
Usually 6 months or so.
If there's no other questions, we'll vote on the motion.
Yes.
There's just one other question. We're looking at $150 million project here. Have we had any advice on this?
There's nothing to, I mean, we're doing in principle.
Just on a principle?
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2 solar farms right
Mhm.
close to town
Mhm.
that went through the planning process, and there's never been concerns. And they're right close to
Right in
residential
town,
areas, so,
yes.
I mean, this being out in the rural, I have no concerns with,
You don't?
something like this.
Okay then.
All right, let's vote.
I request to record it.
What's that?
Could I request a recorded?
Yeah,
vote, please?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Counselor Burns,
In favor?
Counselor Harold Krabs,
Favor of proposal.
Counselor Tama Krabs,
In favor?
Counselor Hobbs,
In favor.
Counselor Marchika,
Opposed.
Counselor Phillips,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. Motion carried.
No.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll see you again. Safe travels.
Be it resolved that items A1 and G1 contained on the consent agenda be adopted. We have a mover for that. Counselor Phillips. Second, Counselor Thomas Krabs. All in favor? Carried.
Lisa's here to talk about this if you
We have a request for caravan services for the Massey Fair, August 23rd, 2025. Louisa, are you here for that?
Yes, I can speak to the report if you'd like me to.
Sure. So the motion reads, be it resolved that council approve a budget of up to 600 to provide the regional caravan for the Massey Fair as follows. Saturday, August 23rd, to provide transit service for residents 55 plus and or living with a disability, with pickup locations in Wetwood, Massey, and Walford, and Sunday, August 24th, to attend the Touch a Truck event, and this be allocated to the 2025 council donation budget. Could I have a mover to that? Councillor Phillips, and second, Councillor Verchica. Discussion, questions, Louisa?
Sure, so just a bit of background, following successful participation in the Baldwin Fall Fair in 2024 and Massey's Journey to Bethlehem event in December 2024, there was a bit of interest shown to continue making the La Cloche Caravan available to community events. I believe that is reflected in the quality of life section of the strategic plan to explore inter-township transportation for community events to try and increase resident participation in these events. So it was discussed with the Massey Agricultural Society whether this would be an event that the caravan could assist with. So yeah, there would be a schedule. It would follow all of our regular policies and procedures, all of our resident parameters, all of our eligibility guidelines. The only difference with any of that would be that they would not need to necessarily register with the caravan service ahead of time. They would still need to book ahead of time and follow all the other procedures. But the paperwork would be a little bit more minimal if they're not going to continue riding in perpetuity. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of it. I do have an option in the report there as well for the recuperation to deal with whether or not we want to have a fair or whether we want to offer the service for free. So that is a decision for council tonight if you also are deciding to provide the service.
So that's why I looked at council's donation budget. So it's sitting at $5,700 right now out of 10,000. We still have a commitment of the 2,000 to the museum. And then if the Massey seniors request the use of the arena again, so half the year hasn't been processed, but it's just a placeholder that cost. So it was roughly 900 and some. So I allocated about 1,000 to that. So leaves us $1,200. This 600 could come out of there, and that would still leave about another 4, which was the caravan for last year, the Christmas in Massey, Journey to Bethlehem. So we would still be able to do that if that wanted to happen this fall. And then we've got a couple $100 left in council's donation budget. So that's why I didn't do the option of having a fair. I thought council could cover.
That would have been my recommendation, absolutely. It's good promotion for the caravan. Any questions for Ms. Nadeau? None? Very well, all in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Louisa. Okay, moving on, 2025 asset management plan. I'm sure you all read it 3 times.
It's quite impressive.
Oh, it is.
It's very impressive.
It is. Be it resolved that the 2025 asset management plan for the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers as prepared by PSD Citywide be accepted, and that the financial strategy and proposed levels of service outlined within the plan be adopted to guide future budgeting and capital planning. Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Tom Krabs, second. Councillor Hobbs. Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Quite a document. Treasurer's second quarter report. Be it resolved that the treasurer's second quarter report for 2025 be accepted. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Harold Krabs, second. Councillor Thomas Krabs. Questions, anyone? All in favor? Carried. Fire Department radios, RFP results. Be it resolved, the council of the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers approved the purchase of 28 handheld Motorola R7 radios and 7 Motorola XPR 5350E mobile radios, including installation for $49,135.22, plus applicable taxes from Spectrum Communications. Have a mover for that? Councillor Hobbs, second. Councillor Burns, questions, anyone? All in favor? Carried.
So this is coming from the 50,000 grant that we
Yes,
received.
sorry, it's all.
Excuse me. Okay, more fire department issues. RFP results for Fire Station 4 furnace replacement. Be it resolved that the council of the township Sables-Spanish Rivers approved the removal of the existing furnace and installation of a new 90 kilowatt two-stage propane furnace, including a 3-ton cold climate heat pump condenser by Bouillon HVAC at the Webwood Fire Hall in the amount of $11,787 plus applicable taxes. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Harold Krabs, second. Councillor Phillips. Questions, anyone?
I just have a statement.
What's that?
Not that, just pointing out that you said 90,000 kilowatts and it's 90,000 BTU.
Well, it just said K on the, okay, so a new 90,000 BTU two-stage propane furnace, sorry.
Okay.
That's an extremely good price, basically. So, all in favor? Carried. Town of Spanish, cancellation of automatic aid agreement. Be it resolved that the council of the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers acknowledges receipt of correspondence from the town of Spanish advising of the termination of the automatic aid agreement for fire services between the two municipalities. And that council wishes the town of Spanish continued success with their fire department. Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Thomas Krabs, second. Councillor Phillips, all in favor? Carried. Nice to see them having some success. Be it resolved that the animal control bylaw enforcement officer's first and second quarter report for 2025 be accepted. Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Phillips, second. Councillor Thomas Krabs, comments or questions? Richard is here. If anyone has any questions for Richard, or do you have any comments, Richard?
I'd like to start by saying thank you for accepting our proposal to continue to serve the residents of the municipality for animal control in the future. Also like to thank council for adopting the new animal control bylaw as per our recommendation. We look forward to council's deliberation regarding the future of bylaw enforcement, and we're open to submitting proposals, and we'd be very proud to continue to serve in that role going forward. As far as statistics, I don't think there's any real departure from the previous year's statistics. We have tried to take, as per the official plan that was adopted last year, a more proactive approach as far as property standards, and have tried to, and with the new property standards bylaw, which I also thank council for adopting last fall, we're no longer restricted to just dealing with written complaint situations, but we can, accept phone reports from residents, which we've had a bit of an increase in, rather than, anonymous complaints as well. We can investigate those, where that wasn't something that we were able to do prior to last fall, which kind of handicapped our ability to enforce the property standards bylaw fairly, right? So, the new legislation we have in place, it allows us to take a bit more of a fair approach. Have we found every bad property in Sables-Spanish and corrected it yet? No. But we are working towards it. And, we are still very much focused on responding to complaints from residents as a priority as far as property standards goes. But we are on the lookout, especially when we're dealing with other matters, whether it be animals or other things, for property standards concerns, right? And try to address those, which we, didn't always have the power to do, and it wasn't always clear that we had that authority before. So, as far as trailer licensing bylaws, we've gone through, and I believe either everyone has renewed or has been told that they need to renew before facing fines. We've been doing some searching around for unlicensed trailers, but it seems to me a lot of these, the problem that we had 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of those people have left town, or have actually gone ahead and applied for their building permits and are working towards permanent uses on those properties. Complaints for trailer problems have gone way down this year. I don't think we've had anybody, as far as rural trailers that are supposed to be there, that are eligible for licenses, right? We have had some difficulties, and we always will, and I think, and it's not just a Sables-Spanish issue, where people living in their trailers in residential areas where they're not supposed to be, and those are very difficult cases because they often involve homelessness issues, they often involve addiction issues, and those people are often in a tough place to begin with. So being told that they can't do what they thought was a great idea doesn't always go over well, but we have had some success in reducing the impact of those issues, especially in Whitworth.
Thank you, Richard. Any questions for Richard from anyone? All right. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Paquette.
Thank you.
Be it resolved, the minutes of the Public Works Committee of August 6, 2025 be accepted, and that any recommendations contained in the minutes be dealt with separately by council. Could I have a mover on that? Councilor Burns, second. Councilor Harold Krabs. Questions, comments? Do we want Sean to make any comments?
I'm sorry.
I guess, did you have anything you wanted to present to us?
No, other than the list of appended resolutions to the report, if we could look at them. I don't know if any one of them to be dealt with.
Are we ready for that yet?
So, I've got anything that was in, I've got resolutions ready, so we can accept the minutes and then we can talk as each
Okay.
item comes up.
Okay.
Look at that way.
Very good. All in favor? Carried.
Yes, first up is the culvert on Old Road.
Okay, be resolved that the council of the township Sables-Spanish Rivers authorize the release of a tender for the replacement of the culvert located at approximately 243 Old Woodwood Road, and that the treasurer be directed to reallocate the Nord's funding stream from the Aggie Lake Road culvert replacement project to the Old Woodwood Road culvert replacement project. Have a mover? Councillor Hobbs, second. Councillor Harold Krabs. Questions, comments? This is what we had our question.
I just have a comment
Oh,
on that, so it says treasurer to be directed, just so council is aware. I have not approached Nords yet, that is the question, once council approves that they accept that maybe we use that funding for Old Woodwood Road instead. I don't have approval to do that at this point.
okay.
And then if we don't get approval, which I'm thinking shouldn't be an issue, that we could possibly, they would just let us extend that project date probably till the end of next year and still use it for the same annual project. Just wanted to make that clear that it wasn't necessarily a done deal on the use of funds.
Very good, thank you, Madam Treasurer. Any other questions about it? Oh, Sean?
Just for clarification, that tender has been prepared, and based on the outcome of tonight, we're in a position to be able to release it tomorrow.
Okay.
Try and keep this project, get this project moving.
Okay. very
And I
good.
think we need to discuss, a council meeting date in between, because when this comes due, in order to award, we won't have a council meeting until September
That's right.
10th. So, what was the timeline we were looking at?
I believe it's August 26th close, so it would be shortly thereafter that we would want to have a meeting.
So, if council can let us know what, I mean, just, this kind of just like a placeholder in your calendar that near the end of August, we need to have a special meeting, just to deal with that, to be able to award that tender so they can get moving on it.
And that's on Tuesday, so it's Tuesday, August 26th we close. Shouldn't take long after that to review the submissions and have a report.
So when would we
That means
potentially?
Wednesday.
Yeah, the one that we canceled, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that we can't.
But we'd be very short, we could
Yeah.
just deal, if there's anything else that we have to, we could deal with it that night, but the purpose would be just to have this tender award.
Okay.
Okay,
So that'll be the 27th.
any other comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Get that thing done.
This one is to do with the emergency route for the Massey Fair.
Oh. Whereas bylaw 2009-40 prohibits or regulates parking within the township of Sables-Spanish Rivers, and whereas section 3.1A prohibits parking where designated by signage as a no parking area. Therefore, be it resolved that the council of the township Sables-Spanish Rivers declares the following streets a no parking area and fire route during the weekend of the Massey Fair. Imperial Street north from the intersection of Highway 17 north to Montreal Street, Montreal Street to Victoria Street west, Victoria Street west in its entirety, and that appropriate signage be installed on these streets. And further, that all vehicles found parking on this route during the fair weekend will be towed at the owner's expense.
And then we missed the first one, Imperial Street North from the intersection of Highway 17
Oh,
to Civic
sorry.
number. Yeah.
Imperial Street north from the intersection of Highway 17 to Civic number 815 Imperial Street north.
Which is the water treatment plant.
Okay. Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Phillips, second. Councillor Tom McCrabb.
So I did ask Mr. Paquette if people can monitor the parking on those streets that weekend. So
Okay.
we'll get the signage put up and then he'd be able to act as the enforcement.
Okay, perfect, that's doable.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a question for clarification. You'd say the weekend of the Massey Fair, is that including the Friday?
Probably the
Yes.
Friday is the
Yeah.
most critical time. Traffic and parking was disastrous last year.
If I could humbly suggest that the resolution,
Yeah.
someone would amend the resolution to say
The dates, yes.
dates in question,
missed
just so that there's no issues there.
Just as a, so they are letting, local campers that are rented camping spots, they are going in at the first of the week to the
Good.
fairgrounds, so that
That'll
they're not
alleviate a lot
backed
of
up.
the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were able to contact everybody, because everybody had to give a contact, because we want them in there and
But
set
the
up.
fa-
yeah.
The fair is bigger than ever and.
And if the lacrosse caravan is going, that'll save some other people from
Yeah.
needing to park, so
This
it's a
is-
win.
This is necessary, we do this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, the motion is amended to, set the dates as August 27th, or August 22nd, to and including August 24th, 2025. All in favor? Carried. Let's hope the traffic situation is a little bit better this year.
If I could be excused, I have other matters to attend to.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
No problem.
Okay, railing installations. Be it resolved that the tender for the installation of 3 cable wood post guide rails be awarded to M&G Fencing Incorporated in the amount of $28,950 plus applicant taxes. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Harold Crab, second. Councillor Tom Crab. Comments from anyone?
So just so everyone's aware, it is 3 different locations.
Yes.
For that. These Bass Point Road, those, properties that are gonna benefit, council, had, given direction that staff would invoice for those properties. I believe I may have to do a bylaw, so that's why I didn't include that, any reference to it, in this motion. So we'll just roll award the tender, and then I'll work on what we have to do on this end of it to do the proper invoicing.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. This is for the flail mower. Be it resolved that the attached invoice from Work Equipment in the amount of $56,217.50, including HSD for a boom flail mower, be approved for payment. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Harold Krabs, second. Councillor Tom Krabs. Questions, anyone? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the attached progress payment number 1 in favor of Lignum Builders Limited in the amount of $81,343.22, including HST for the Massey Medical Clinic GCIB project, be approved for payment. Can I have a mover on that? Councilor Phillips, second. Councilor Hobbs. All in favor? Carried. Okay, this has to do with the aerial spraying of glyphosate in our area. It's quite a lengthy motion. Whereas the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, MNRF, conducts aerial spraying of glyphosate-based herbicides in crown forests across northern Ontario, including areas in proximity to the township of Sables-Spanish rivers, to suppress competing vegetation following logging operations. And whereas glyphosate is a broad spectrum herbicide that has been linked in scientific studies to soil degradation, contamination of surface and groundwater, loss of biodiversity, and potential negative impacts on human and wildlife health. Whereas the annual volume of glyphosate used in Ontario forestry is estimated at 35 to 50 metric tons, much of which is applied in Northern Ontario. And whereas aerial application of glyphosate affects non-target plant species, reduces habitat and food sources for wildlife, and may impact traditional hunting, fishing, and foraging activities relied upon by residents of Sables-Spanish River and surrounding communities. And whereas other Canadian jurisdictions, including the province of Quebec, have banned glyphosate use in forestry and adopted mechanical and manual vegetation management alternatives. And whereas many Indigenous governments, environmental organizations, and residents across Northern Ontario have expressed strong opposition to the continued use of glyphosate in forestry management. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Sables-Spanish Rivers formally opposes the aerial spraying of glyphosate and other herbicides in Crown Forest within or adjacent to the township, and that the council calls upon the Government of Ontario and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to end the practice of aerial herbicide spraying in Ontario's public forests, transition to ecologically responsible vegetation management methods, including manual and mechanical approaches that maintain forest biodiversity and protect water flow. And finally, that this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, Bill Rosenberg, MPP, the Federation of Ontario Municipalities, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, local Indigenous governments whose territories overlap with the Township of Sables-Spanish Rivers. Could I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Thomas Crabbe, second councillor.
Did we discuss this?
Yeah.
After a second,
Okay.
we need
I have to have a seconder. Councillor Hobbs, discussion, questions?
Okay, when this was going on, actually before our public works meeting, because the Sable River is the watershed, that's our source of water. It starts basically Sable Lake area, it comes down. Because it's all the tributaries, all the river, everything runs into the Sable River. Because that is the watershed for this area. I had a real concern on this because what we're doing is, this is a pesticide or herbicide, it's a cancer-causing agent, and maybe a small concentration of it here isn't a concern, but when you get as many streams and tributaries coming into this river as there are, I have a concern. So as a ratepayer and also as a counselor and as a water department, I contacted our MPP on this, and I sent him a note. He was pretty good. It didn't take long to call me back, and he said, "You have a concern with this." In the meantime, I went and spoke with another superintendent of the MNR who also had a concern. These are MNR people. So I said, "Here's what's going on." I said, "You're going to spray this. We can't, you're telling us not to pick the blueberries, not to do anything near this because this is contaminated, but yet this is feeding our water system. And it actually is a high volume too. When you look at that whole area and how it all feeds in, there's a lot coming into this. It's not just a little area. And you're saying that you're going to stay back with your spraying 60 meters from the water source in the river. So, which is only less than 200 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, all these little creeks that are running through this 200-foot area, when it rains, it flows into, they all come into this river. This is our drinking water source. He said to me, "You've got a good point here. Let me look into this." And I said, I will get back to you. He got back to me on this when I brought it up. He said, I will get back to you on this. Because I said, I don't feel that this is any way near acceptable for a municipality. And when I went to the park, the superintendent up there showed me the Mississauga Park. I didn't realize that. I thought the Mississauga Park ended at Salt Lake because I knew it was Mississauga Park Lake and all in there. And she says, no, Mississauga Park runs right down here, all the way down through here. So I said, what are we doing spraying in the park? She said, good point. So there's some issues that they're looking into now. But the main key for our municipality here is our water source. This is our water source, you know, and if we don't speak up and voice our opinion on this, hey, we're the one to blame, not the people who are doing the spraying.
Thank you, Council. Just to be on record with this, the township has opposed this spraying since 2009. So it's not the first time we voice our opposition. Spraying is supposed to begin in a week's time or so, if I'm not mistaken, so.
So I'd like to see this motion amended from just in our municipality to all the,
I would like.
in the watershed.
Well, I'd like to extend it to all the municipalities in Ontario.
And to all the municipalities in Ontario, but this is like critical, that this should be from that whole Mississauga Park south, not just in our municipality, because that's a very, very small percentage of what's gonna be coming in here. If we could.
So are we covered here?
We are, because AMO and Phenom,
That will
even
cover.
AMCTO, those are our voices. I hesitate to include the line and at all other municipalities, because I know what I do with a lot of those ones that are looking for support.
Mhm.
You know, they get deleted. You get a overabundance and people tend to not even look at them. So sending them to the key players where you're actually going to get,
The association.
yeah, and so sending it to those associations, asking their members to send this out and lobby that way, I think is more effective than just sending it a blanket, the same email to all 444 municipalities. I will send it to our local, like the ones that are our closest neighbors, because they're impacted as much as we are. But sending them to, West Southern Ontario, there's no point, because they're not having that, they're not doing that same type of industry.
I agree with that.
Any other comments, questions? Ken?
Well, in the news release, it said that they were targeting competing vegetation. Does anybody know what that is?
Yeah, birch trees, poplar trees, anything but a spruce or a pine.
Well, they're already dead. The spruce are turning black on my property anyway, but anyway, the green bush, I don't think burns. And if we kill it, then that's next year's wildfire, right?
That's right. That's what saves us right now. But I mean, whatever, the amount of dead spruce out there is scary.
I like competing vegetation.
Yeah, I like it too. So, any other comments, questions?
I was just gonna say, like, if an individual, any of us here had an old container of Roundup, for example, with glyphosate in it, you could be reported and get yourself in some significant trouble for using it on your property, but yet, the ministry wants to allow 35 to 40 million metric tons to spray.
Yeah.
So we're recognizing that it's not acceptable to use it, however, it's used. And I didn't receive any responses back. I sent an email to the Ministry of Natural Resources, the Management Forester at the Sault Ste. Marie office, and also to our MPP Bill Rosenberg, and haven't received a response from any.
Well, all we can do is voice our displeasure. We're trying to rattle some chains. That's why.
Just one more point. Tomorrow, there's going to be a demonstration on Highway 17 in Cutler from 10 till noon. Just going to be slowing traffic down to provide some information on this spring.
In front of the trading post.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or in the park.
It's good.
And hopefully, Councillor Crowd's communication with our MPP is going to fast track
I would hope.
in government, because this is gonna start in a week. It's basically not gonna go anywhere. in that length of time, whatever.
Well, let's vote on the motion. All in favor? Carried. I don't know if we can do anything about this here, but we have to keep.
Being quiet won't do anything either.
We have to keep the pressure on and keep voicing our disapproval.
Mhm.
Okay, Simcoe maintenance contract.
And company did give their presentation of the contract first, and then we're here to talk.
Okay. Gentlemen?
Thank you so much for your time. We very much appreciate it. My name is Patrick Karen. I represent Simcoe. I'm here with my colleague Zach Cassell. He also represents Simcoe Sudbury. I do not have a full presentation. I assume everybody has the presentation. So I have come to answer questions in regards to the maintenance contracts. I understand there were some questions or some clarifications that were required. So I would like to open the floor for any questions. I'd be happy to answer.
This was spurred through the Parks and Rec Committee, so if Parks and Rec wants to, anybody from Parks and Rec wants to, what questions, I don't know what questions anyone had regarding it.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with a question.
Sure.
How many pounds of ammonia in our system?
In your system, I'd have to double check in your system. I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me.
Don't know?
We can confirm exactly the amount.
It's approximately 250, 300 pounds. There is a door sign on the ammonia.
That's it?
Yeah.
250 to 300?
Yeah, that's standard, that's standard for a single family facility.
So I went and took is a valve a safety?
There are safety, yes, valves are safety, shut-off
Okay.
valves are numerous types of valves, correct?
So Sean is here and he took me a tour of the compressor room, correct?
Correct, yes.
And there is valves on the ammonia line 4, I believe, that you have to do a
We're supposed to be.
monthly check, right?
Yeah, we're supposed to be exercising those valves.
That's good. So they're not tagged,
The valves are not tagged.
they're not tagged.
Okay. So to start off, we have not had a service contract with Massey since 2023. That is when our last service contract ended. Part and parcel of a maintenance contract would be to do inspections on all valves, lines, make recommendation in terms of changing any valves that we think are faulty or potentially faulty. That all goes part and parcel with our startup mid-season shutdown inspections as well as our summer maintenance.
Okay, it's just that if we expect him to operate those valves, I want you guys to tell us it's safe for him to operate those valves.
Yep.
And they should be tagged to do that.
Yes, sir.
There was no tags on them when I looked, and I don't know if tags were on it and had been removed.
No, they're, those valves are required to be tagged.
If they're safety, they are. You said they were.
Well, it's an ammonia shut-off valve.
I don't know what
Shut
they
off before those valves. During the season, we're supposed to exercise them on and off. The only safety valves is the relief valves on the compressor and the relief valves on the chiller. And they are automatically discharged. If it was to go over 250 PSI, they would automatically discharge, and that goes out their relief line that puts the ammonia out into the atmosphere so that nothing explodes.
But all I'm saying is if he has to open and close that valve as part of his maintenance, correct? I want it.
I don't know what valve though you're.
Not the safety valve.
They're not a safety valve. The only safety valves are the relief valves, and you cannot operate.
But they're still on an ammonia line, correct?
Yes, but it's not a safety.
If it's still on an
It's a
ammonia
shut-off.
line,
It's a shut off, but he shouldn't technically be touching any valves other than the chiller drain valve. That is the only one that an operator should be touching, technically.
I just wanted to make sure if he had to touch it, that you guys checked it and made sure it was safe for him to do so.
Yeah, so in our contract, if you go to our scope of work, open all valves on all system, we check the accuracy of all the valves. And again, if there is any suspicion on our part, even suspicion, we make recommendation to swap the valve. Because we don't leave anything to chance in terms of, especially when you're dealing with ammonia.
And then it says in here, I read the contract.
Yeah.
And you only check for leaks at the beginning of the season, at the end of the season?
Yes, mid-season inspection would also, we would check for leaks. That it might not be written in this, but it would be part of every inspection that we do. We would check for all leaks.
There's no leak check in the mid-season report that I read.
Yeah, so I'm just reading that now. Verify life, verify parameters, glycol. Yeah, so there should be leak detection in there as well. Check for leaks. It's a standard procedure for us.
Okay,
Would
but if
use-
it's not there, I can't assume you're gonna do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely understood. Yeah, we can rectify that. We can amend that.
And then there's the, air exchange in there with a motor that's been removed.
Sorry, say that
They
again.
got the shutters jammed open with a water bottle.
Yes, the exhaust, yeah. So we are actually working actively on a quote to replace that. I was on the phone with an engineer today about that. Sean actually sent me some measurements today regarding the exhaust and the ventilation.
Mhm.
So that is being amended. That is a TSSA recommendation. It needs to be followed.
Okay, and then another thing, I was talking to Lori today, and the scope of work and all that is $16,000 a year.
Mhm.
But repairs are on top of that?
So, yeah, so the $16,000 a year includes all major overhauls, compressor overhauls in general, a yearly brine analysis, leak detector calibration, all of which are mandatory, need to be done. The big cost, typically what we find, well, not typically what we find, typically what the big cost is in compressor maintenance are the overhauls. A top end overhaul can run you as much as $5,000 to $6,000. A major overhaul can double that. So what we do, and the reason we break down the contract in this way is because it spreads the cost out. For example, if you had two compressors that needed two major overhauls in the same year, you'd probably be looking north of $25,000. We try to take that lump sum payment and break it up over manageable payments over a 4-year term. This contract includes all of your compressor maintenance, oil changes, overhauls, everything required, including brine analysis, leak detector calibration for the next 4 years. So basically what we're doing is we're trying to take a large lump sum cost and break it up over smaller payments, which are all, and it makes the payments easier to plan for because it's the same total year over year, quarterly, annually for the next 4 years. So we try to give our clients and our customers something they can plan for the next 4 years to make it manageable, so there's no surprises. Service calls, things happen, unfortunately, mechanical rooms, things do fail. It's impossible to project failure. The maintenance is designed to minimize that risk as much as possible. But in terms of sign-offs, in terms of calibrations, test and tags, safeties, all of these are all mandatory things that need to be done yearly. We include that in our maintenance contract. Basically, we take the onus off of you and into our hands to make sure that we're making sure that you guys are covered that way. Beyond that, failures and things we will address at the time, but you can't project that, unfortunately.
I'm just looking at it so that they're safe when they're in there.
Yeah, no, I completely understood, and that's our number one goal at Simcoe.
Now, we got an email, do we have to have a contract with them?
We do not have to have a contract.
We do not have to
We
have.
do not have to have a maintenance contract to operate. We have to have a licensed technician do service, but there's no legislation or regulation that says we have to have a maintenance contract with anyone.
So TSSA, just to comment on that, if I may, I apologize. If I may comment, TSSA is bringing in new legislation and has already started to, I think Sean had something pulled up earlier today regarding, they're cracking down a little bit on that in terms of you are correct, you do not need to have a contract. We can do this on time and material. But TSSA is cracking down on logbook and planned ahead pre-maintenance based on the new regulations that are coming in that they're, I guess, creating for this. So you are correct. There's no need for a contract right now. We simply encourage contracts on our end because, again, it helps break up the costs. It takes the maintenance away, the thought of the maintenance away out of the customer's hands, puts it on our onus. We create the schedules, and therefore it's just one less thing that you have to worry about when you're running the arena. So that is why we encourage it. But we can do this, it could be a 1-year contract, it could be no contract at all, and we can just do it on time and material. But every one of these things that are in here has to be done yearly. regardless if it's contracted or not, somebody has to do this yearly, for TSSA regulations.
I just want to add just a quick comment. I'm in my going in my fourth season now, and Simcoe has been our main service provider, and we've had zero downtime on our plant. So I just wanted to add that.
So are these overhauls that we're talking about on the compressors, they are done annually?
These are based on run hours. So there are two different types of overhauls. There's a top end overhaul, which is a smaller version of a major overhaul. So that is usually done at 6,000 hours, and a major overhaul is done at 12,000 hours. Typically, a compressor runs anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 hours per season. In between those overhauls, it is annual oil changes every year. You have to change the oil every year in compressor. So that's what we've carried in this proposal, is where you see top end overhauls and then an oil change for the second compressor. That would be based on run hours, again, projected. We've added a note in this contract that says these are based on a perceived maintenance schedule. If things change hour time run wise, we can always make adjustments to this based on approval, of course.
Or are they based on our runtime hours?
They are based on your runtime hours specifically. This will be designed to completely based around your run hours.
So these are overhauls that would have to be done whether they're under contract or not?
Correct, yeah, so overhauls based on your run hours, if it wasn't contracted, somebody would have to come in and do an overhaul, right? And again, that's where you get the larger cost all at once, right, where you get the lump sum costs.
But it's not costing us any more. It's not costing us, there's no difference in the cost to us, whether we pay it in big payments and little payments?
No, this is ideal a lot with northern communities, very small communities who sometimes are unable to make lump sum payments of such large numbers. So this helps break down costs, and this is why I'm a proponent of it. Again, we deal all the way up to Hearst and all the communities in between, so it's.
So even though we've had no downtime or no runtime problems the past several years, this maintenance has still been done, this overalls has still been done.
This maintenance, yeah.
That'd be due to the preventative maintenance.
Okay,
And may I also add, just quickly, if we have a catastrophic failure and we lose our ice, we've also lost thousands of dollars in labor hours and paint, and not to mention all the revenue we would have generated, it's gone.
So there really is no savings in purchasing a contract.
In terms of parts, I mean, you could look at the small part savings you might be generating out of a major overhaul in 4 years. It's already paid for now. Significant savings in terms of that. It's not cost effective either way. I would suggest that this would be not so much about the money savings, but as much to do as TSSA coming in and doing a code check or compliance in that sense, as well as taking essentially what you're allowing us to do is manage the facility and make sure that everything's up to code and all these criteria are met each year because it must be done. So that's, I think, the benefit of having us there. We also have a mechanic who lives in Massey, which is a great benefit because something fails. Time-wise, he's right there, right? So it is a great benefit to have somebody who lives right here, is very familiar with the plant as well.
Your colleague is some
I just have one thing. So service calls are over and above?
Service calls are over and above. Anything on a service call, again, it's impossible to predict failures, unfortunately, so it is over and above. But anything that a service call and say we find faulty valves or things that need to be changed, these are not things that we change on the spot without approvals.
Do you do a lot of this work, like Simcoe and has been doing the startup of the plant, shutdown plant? Is not all this work being done at that time?
Pardon
Like
me?
all the checks and all the overhaul and checking, that's done during this plant startup?
So typically we try and do summer maintenance for the bigger projects, for the overhauls. They take a couple of days.
Yeah.
So typically we try and do that during the summer. Again, all the time is included in your cost. So it really, there's no added cost for us to come up and do it in the summer. Typically we try and do that. A big reason for that is if we are going to turn the plant on in the summer and we find something that's faulty, it's nice to know that before you go to start up the plant, you have a failure. So typically, now, sometimes time permitting, we will do oil changes, for example, at startup. But ultimately, if we can do the overhauls in the summer, and again, verify that everything is working correctly, we would like to do, we strive to do it that way.
Sean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to add that it also protects us from inflation for the next 4 years. And also that the information I found online says that in Ontario, the operating engineers regulation mandates that registered refrigeration plants, including those in arenas, have a contractual relationship with a refrigeration contractor. Minimum annual maintenance review by a qualified contractor is required. TSSA registration, arenas with refrigeration systems exceeding a certain capacity, example 22 kilowatt compressors, are often required to be registered with TSSA. And these regulations are in place to ensure the safety of the facility, users and workers being by requiring proper maintenance and inspection.
Okay.
Our compressors time monitored, do you have hour meter on? Do we know how many hours they're putting on?
Yes,
You do?
yes.
Yeah. So we know it comes up to 250 hours for the top overall.
Yes, so Sean actually brought a logbook that we use. When we do our overhauls and inspection, we mark down the hours at that time for the compressors. That allows us to understand, we don't guess in terms of, we think this is around that much. We know exactly how many hours have been run off that compressor since we've done the last overhaul.
How many hours in the season roughly?
Typically 1,500 to 2,500 hours. There's usually one compressor that bears more load. The standard ice rink would be 1,500 to 25, some run more, some run a bit less, but anywhere in between 1,500 and 2,500.
Is there a life expectancy on them?
Compressor's 20 years.
Goes by time.
With proper maintenance.
With proper maintenance, that's correct. Yeah.
Chris, again?
Good to know too that Massey is now experiencing the longest ice seasons they've ever had with Elliott Lake using our facility.
Yeah.
Starting up in August and running right till April. So we are putting extra hours on our equipment, also generating extra revenue and providing ice for our neighbors.
And with proper maintenance, the efficiency of the machine gets better here.
Any other questions?
Does the HVAC require all these checks to be done, or is that?
Yes, so there's an HVAC proposal as well, that we've sent in, so as far as I understand, I don't believe HVAC, Sean, has ever been serviced to any degree. I'm asking, so.
Other than us changing the filters, they have not been, and that was it's not mandated or anything that we have a maintenance contract on that. We are recommending that we do to prolong the life of our furnaces and HVAC systems so that we don't run into a situation where halfway through the season, the furnace breaks down and we have to get the furnace repaired again, like the motor blew out of it, like, what was it, 2 years ago?
But our furnaces are propane, correct?
Correct, yes.
They should be checked anyway, just to make sure that the CO.
Yeah.
levels aren't in your house.
Propane appliances need to be inspected yearly, annually. That is a code from TSSA as well.
Councillor Hobbs had a question.
I just have a comment. If the TSSA is bringing in new regulations or altering them, I'm not sure about a 4-year contract, 1 year, an annual thing. My second comment is because of what we're dealing with, ammonia. I don't want to be taking chances, with just anybody fiddling around with stuff. Yeah.
I hear you. Councillor Phillips?
I like the idea of a maintenance contract, especially dealing with that. I like the idea of a 1-year contract because our term is up in a year. And do we want to lock the new council into an agreement that they can't get out of once they're in there? So, I don't know.
Well, my recommendation is to defer this until we've replaced our Parks and Rec coordinator.
Yes.
Because I think this person should have a say in, and we make it somebody who's quite knowledgeable in refrigeration, be licensed, that would be a dream, but, just has a better understanding, and that's their budget that they have to work on. So I think that new person should have an opportunity to review this and, you know, make a recommendation to council, rather than
Us guess
that's
at it.
jumping to something, yeah. I mean, Simcoe's gonna be there for us to do any maintenance, you're gonna be there for us when we call and
Absolutely.
come and help and bill us obviously for,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
but I really think that we should, kind of just
Good idea.
put a pin in it and just come back to it when, we've got, that's my recommendation, council can, feel that you wanna.
Councilor Byrne.
But you started up so we could put the ice in, correct?
Yes, so, we are actually starting up the plan on Monday,
So, and so you're gonna do all the checks on Monday?
coming Monday.
They will be time.
That'll be time and material based on the outcome of tonight's.
The oils will be changed and.
Yeah, so that is up to be done, so yes, that'll all be done on time and material. Rather based on tonight's outcome, yes, that would be done on time and material.
You know, I just like to say like 4-year HVAC and 4-year ice plant is $30,000 a year times 4 and 120, right? If we could do it for 1 year, because we are here for the taxpayers, right?
Yes.
So maybe we could do it for 1 year and see if we could get somebody to do it cheaper, right? The same job cheaper.
Yep.
Not looking for a cheap job. just-
No, I understand.
Two ways of looking at it.
I understand.
So I'll read the motion. Be it resolved that we thank Simcoe for their presentation of a maintenance contract for the Massey and District Community Center Arena, and that a decision on this contract be deferred until the Parks and Recreation Coordinator position has been filled. Could I have a mover on that? Councilors Burns and Tom Krabs. Questions, anyone? Comments? All in favor? Carried.
And it's, so, you know, I'm hoping by September we would have some of that.
Yeah.
Applications are due by the 20.
We're in the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely, no problem. Yeah, well, we really appreciate you allowing us to speak tonight, and again, we really love working with Massey, so hopefully that relationship can continue.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. You ready for a nap?
I was sick last night.
Oh, no.
This is the first
Be it
time I've been
resolved
sick.
that council
Oh, dear.
accepts with regret Lori Johnson's resignation as Parks and Recreation Coordinator, and that we wish her well
Thank you.
in future endeavors. Could I have a mover on that? Councilors Krabs and Burns. Comments, questions, anyone? All in favor? Okay, unfortunately, Lori has had to step away, but look for
She said she will help if we need transition with a new person, she's willing to help,
That's
but,
good to hear. Be it resolved that the Parks and Recreation Coordinator position be advertised with applications due by August 22nd, 2025, and that in accordance with the township's hiring policy, the hiring team shall consist of the clerk, administrator, and counselor, who shall conduct interviews to select a suitable and counselor.
yeah, it's a blank because the hiring policy says it's a counselor and the clerk
Okay.
or
so-
staff. So
Councilor Burns, since you're the chair, would you like to take that on to hire the new coordinator with,
Work with Ann?
Yep.
Okay.
That sounded funny.
so that in accordance with the township's hiring policy, the hiring team shall consist of the clerk, administrator, and Councilor Burns, who shall conduct interviews to select a suitable candidate and provide a recommendation to council for approval. Could I have a mover on that? Councilor Phillips, the second Councilor Hobbs, all in favor? Carried. Okay,
closed session.
yeah, around the table, anyone, before we move to closed session? Anyone? I got a few things. The Nobium transportation to Narrenheim is off.
Yeah.
Good.
It
I
will be
seen them
shipped-
on Facebook.
Yeah, it'll be shipped to
Sarnia.
hazardous waste facility in Sarnia. So that's a real tribute to people power around us. I spoke with Mayor Maisie tonight and told her that her and Clerk Ketchabah did a fantastic job on this. So nice to know we can still stop the big machine. So
It's, at our very first meeting, I was there, there was a gentleman there that I know. And he's involved in that. He says, I don't know why you're fighting this. You're not gonna stop this. I said, you're not done with us yet.
yeah, that's amazing.
I left it at that.
Very glad that happened.
Kudos to them, they did a lot of work, for sure.
Our new doctor, Dr. Kia, is working at the clinics, going quite well according to our manager. I have a meeting with Martin Lees who, with regards to the hospital moving forward and our clinic. That'll be later this month. What else? I'd like to maybe put something together for an agenda for a meeting with Sagamok in October, maybe. A couple of things that are first to mind is fire, because of that whole situation. We can discuss that with him. The glyphosate, of course. And anything else, think about it and we'll see. We'll talk about it next meeting, maybe. One other thing. Very sad to hear the passing of our chair at DSAP, Bruce Killa, who was chair for 5 or 6 years. I sat beside him for 5 years, passed away suddenly. So I went to the wake and expressed condolences to his widow. I'm now the chair. So we'll see how that goes. And that's about it. So we can wrap this up if nobody else has anything. Councillor Krabs?
Just one other thing that brought to my attention, we're talking about the Sonnenberg development down there, the funding, the ministry hasn't decided who is gonna get that funding yet, or what portion, for this grant structure, for the infrastructure
Well, I
money.
thought the municipality would get it.
Yeah, but they haven't decided what municipalities are gonna get.
Oh.
And right now, it's on hold for an extended period of time. So anyway, that's the reason why nothing's happening.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I had no illusion that we would get approval anytime this year, or that I understand that Sonnenbergs would like to break ground, but if they're waiting on this, then I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. I mean, we'll try to connect with the federal officials on that moving forward, but
Yeah, that's all we can do
that's
now.
all we can do.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, be it resolved, we move into closed session at 8:30 p.m. pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act regarding identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. Could I have a mover? Councillor Toma Krabs and Councillor Harold Krabs. Thank you, Louisa. All in favor? Carried.